how would you describe the state of affairs there at the moment? I mean, you've got your fingers on the pulse, presumably.
Yes, I would say it's very unfortunate. When you said I'm from Rivers, let me just add more information. My 4 grandparents are from Rivers State, so they don't come any more rivers than me, even though I happen to live in Lagos. You see, in every situation, I always believe in giving people time to tell us who they are, what they're about. In effect, watch before you rush to judgment. When this sole administrator was appointed, please check everywhere and anywhere. I never made any comment about him, his competence, his integrity, or anything. So what has changed? What has changed is that I think the sole administrator, either he misread his brief, or he has no understanding of what his role is, and instead of coming to an inflamed situation with a view to helping to achieve stability and healing, he might be inadvertently adding fuel to the fire. I'll give you the basis. He's made some appointments. First of all, he emerged himself in an irregular manner. I would say the executive were misguided. So he's a product of the executive being misguided legally, and then the legislator introducing rascality to use a voice vote to confirm his appointment, which we all know a voice vote does not make any sense. It can never prove 2/3, because even in the House of Rep, we don't even know how many people were in the room. I saw the TV pictures, they didn't even have a quorum. A member who pointed that out was shouted down. So here is the man who came in, knows he's on shifty ground, on shifty ground. And what has he done? You know, they say, make some appointments and I'll tell you who you are. Now, he's made some appointments. Even the River State Electoral Commission, he went in there, removed people, made appointments. He then also went to all the LGAs, appointed sole administrators. So a man who himself probably has no proper mandate in a serious country with a serious legal system now decides to add insult upon injury. Instead of simply leaving local governments in the hands of the most senior full-time staff and even reading them the Riot Act to do the correct thing, he now goes to superimpose people. I challenge him to tell the nation through what process he chose those he appointed.
So why do you think he's doing that?
Let's go to the facts first, then we'll come to theories. Through what process did he make the appointments? Did he advertise the positions? Did he call for nominations? Did he search River State for the most competent, skilled persons of high integrity? Like I've already said, we know ourselves in River State. You make many appointments from the people you've chosen. I can tell you who you are. With due respect, some of the people he appointed, in my personal opinion, they are riffraffs. So a man leaves Cross River State, comes to River State in an inflamed situation. I challenge him to tell the nation what process he used in making the appointments. Did he choose people that he knew personally when he was in the Navy? Who did he ask for nominations? Where did he produce some of these riffraffs from? We can go into the details later. Then he also goes to the Local Government Commission, the River State Electoral Commission. This is why I say it's adding fuel to fire. You go to an electoral commission and you bring in people that you chose through a method that you can't explain. Please, I challenge him to explain how he chose those persons. So do you want us to accept elections conducted by some of those people that he chose, where we don't even know how they emerged? Listen, let's be fair. If I give you, Charles, an appointment to go to another state, a position of trust, I know you would wield it with some responsibility. You wouldn't just go in there and in a haphazard manner start making appointments that will inflame the situation. And I think that is disrespectful to the people of River State. He should be called to order immediately. There should be no mistake whatsoever that we will sit down forever and accept persons whom he appointed to lord over our states and our resources. What gives him the right? How did he choose those persons? Some of whom I've described as riffraffs, in my opinion.
Well, you're raising some very important questions, which I suspect a lot of people will concur with. But at the same time, we also have to raise those theories that you were talking about. What do you think is his motivation?
You see, yes. If I go into theories, a debate will arise also what is motivation. But like I said, when you've chosen people that some of them are highly questionable, see, all politics is local.
Indeed.
If I go to Anambra State and pick some people can guess who gave me those names. We know who their relatives are, some of them. And unfortunately, the Nigerian political class have not shown phenomenal caution when it comes to filling posts that are sensitive with their relatives or henchmen or bag carriers. So if all he wants to do is to go around collecting names of henchmen and bag carriers and giving them sensitive positions in another person's state, then he's got something coming his way. Because we now have reason to question his sincerity, question his competence, question indeed whether this is not mischief that is involved in.
And whose bags do you think those people that you're talking about are carrying?
Well, all I can tell you is that, first of all, there's this pretense that nobody knows who are the two major combatants So when you make appointments and one side is celebrating, we know who the appointments favored. And I think there too, let me bring in here at home to the president. We are tired of the president making speeches. I think his speech writers on Rivers State have been unfair to him, making speeches and calling one side to order. Have you ever heard of a dispute involving only one side? If he has inhibitions about his own antecedents in terms of state capture in the past from Lagos State and so on, he should put them aside. He's not the president of the federation. So let's quit this pretense that there's a dispute between one person and himself. Every schoolboy out there knows the two major figures in this dispute. I think it's important that everybody who means well does not just simply start pretending that they don't understand what it's all about. It's partly about state capture. I use the term state capture because state capture is one of the things that's going to threaten our democracy. It's already doing so. What do I call state capture? Various people, various persons are looking for any opportunity to capture sections of the Nigerian state that should be working for everybody and the masses and trying to make it work for themselves alone. I heard ex-Governor Mechi, former minister, say it's a dispute over money. I won't say he's wrong, but I would broaden it to say it's a dispute over state capture. See, Fubara could have got peace very easily. All he had to do was completely sacrifice the interests of Rivers people, take the revenue of the state and decide to use it to satisfy all the so-called power brokers, allow them to ride roughshod over him, and then we'll have the peace of the graveyard. So I'm not even saying A is right or B is wrong. I'm just saying that can we dimension the problem seriously and correctly and stop making these silly broadcasts where you pretend that you don't even understand the origin of a dispute. That's about state capture. And I mentioned the state capture is threat. Rivers State is just the beginning. Almost every ambitious politician out there now is looking to capture some section of some state or some institution or some ministry. We have a situation where in some ministries, revenues are more or less, it's impossible for a private citizen to go in there and get a contract based on a free and fair contest. In some cases, the civil servants have captured the whole process for themselves. So everybody's competing to capture things. And
and that's because of a precedent, you think?
There are all kinds of precedents, and nobody is pointing out that. Let me tell you the logical extension of this. They will capture everything to the exclusion of the generality of Nigerians. And they expect the rest of the country to be watching and clapping for them. It's not going to happen. It will not end well. I don't know how it's going to end. But it was JFK that said, those who make a peaceful revolution impossible, make a violent one inevitable. Please, revolutions don't have to be successful. There are many that have failed. But you can create enough turmoil. There's been so much trouble before in Somalia. I'm not sure anybody succeeded. But would you go and invest today in Somalia?
Certainly not.
And in Nigeria, before I change the topic, or I do change the topic, all over the country we have people being slaughtered in Benue, where there's a real emergency. People being slaughtered in Plateau, there's a real emergency. We left those places where human life is being threatened. And then we are pretending that Rivers State, which is a struggle over money by people of dubious inclinations, or a struggle over state capture is the top priority, where we need to bring in an administrator with a military background. And my last comment on that, what is the logic of bringing somebody with a military background? Are you telling young soldiers today, the young military today, that when politicians get it wrong, the solution is military? What are we copying? When Obasanjo was president and he made this same mistake of bringing in property administrators, I can even excuse him, perhaps being a soldier himself. He was going back to the constituency where he knew perfect gentlemen and handpicking them to come and help him solve a problem. In this case, what signal are you sending to young persons in the military? Should they be aspiring that one day they too will be appointed administrators and they will go somewhere and be appointing strange bedfellows that they barely know through no process?
Well, you mentioned signal there. I wonder if you've heard that Governor Fubara has met President Tinubu in London, a move some have described as pure groveling subservience on the part of the governor whose rights have been infringed upon and the democracy he was elected to protect in his state trampled upon. Do you see that as another example of democracy under threat, with the governor, rather than fighting for his legal rights, going to possibly grovel to the president? I say possibly because I don't know what they discussed, but would you encourage him to do that as part of the process of consultations that are necessary to secure peace in Rivers?
If what you're asking me is that should the governor consult all relevant persons, my answer is an emphatic yes, and that must include the president. For a start, he should ask the president, and I hope he did. Why do you make speeches saying that after they demolished the State House of Assembly, there was no effort to rebuild it? When people in Port Harcourt can show you the building being rebuilt, a tremendous place, who is supplying all this falsehood out there? And why is the president lapping it up? So the point I'm making is that, look, I will never discourage anybody. When there's a problem, there are only three things you can do in this world: a serious political problem. You can either talk about it, or you can do nothing, or you can fight. There's nothing wrong in doing the first two, that they talk about it and fight at the same time. Because most disputes are not resolved with bullets. They're resolved through dialogue, and discussion, and compromise.
Well, you mentioned dialogue. I mean, is it your sense that communication lines are open to both Governor Fubara and Minister Wike to discuss peace and reconciliation, or is that in tatters at the moment?
When is the communication lines between who and who? We've got to be careful, because I don't think we should narrow this problem down to two human beings. We're discussing a much bigger subject, the threat to our democracy.
But that's how it came about.
Yes, but it doesn't matter that they are the two principal actors. It cannot be left with them and them alone. First of all, I've already made a comment that the president's past comments on these disputes have been worrisome. Worrisome because we expect him to be the father of the whole nation. It does not matter whether you appointed X as a minister or whether you don't like Y as a governor. In all your communication, you must come across as the father of the nation, too big to take sides in a dispute. Because ultimately, discussions that go to that level, we expect that wisdom, that fatherly wisdom, to come to bear. And I believe and pray that it will still come to bear. Because what we are doing also is that, people keep saying things like, oh, the democracy, they're not getting the dividends. If all that people are doing is playing all kinds of games to capture electoral commissions, appoint dubious persons, to conduct shoddy elections, pronounce themselves winners by stopping counting and manipulating the results and telling you to go to court. If that's all we're going to be doing, that's not democracy. And it means some people just captured power. Isn't that what the military do? Some people just wake up and capture power. What is the difference between the two? If you're not careful, it could be Rivers today, somewhere else tomorrow. They might take the view that, in the absence of any participation by them in who rules them or who determines their future, you can provoke anarchy. And please, first of all, let me put it on record. I don't buy this nonsense about the emergency was declared because somebody tried to attack oil, pipelines and so on. Let me tell you a thing or two about oil pipelines. I've known them from when I was 10 years old. If anybody seriously wanted to blow up oil pipelines, they would blow them up. In fact, this particular one they quoted was suspicious. You know why? Go and figure out how much disruption there was to the pipeline. It's almost as if somebody deliberately just fired, probably knockout or some balloons or did something very minor, so it can be an excuse to trigger something else.
Right.
Nobody's fooled by that.
Let me ask you this, because we're running out of time and we have to sort of gallop ahead. How much is Rivers State bleeding as a result of the state of emergency? Because we're seeing protests both in support of it and against it, and we are on the outside, you're in the inside.
The state is bleeding because if you were an investor, in the best of times, you want a conducive environment. You want certainty. Why would you leap into an environment where there's total uncertainty, indeed potential anarchy, with an administrator making crazy appointments left, right, and center into sensitive and delicate positions? Would that inspire confidence in anybody? Now, I don't mind whether it's a mistake, whether it's incompetence, whether it is mischief, whether it is lack of knowledge. Those appointments cannot endure. They should not endure. We must not allow them to endure. The man should be removed as fast as possible, along with all those he appointed.
But what, beyond you telling us about this, obviously we're an important medium because you're reaching millions of people around the country, including those in positions of power. Are people like yourself making, if you like, formal approaches to people like the president and people who, the National Assembly and so on, who can actually change that situation?
I can't speak for who is approaching the president. Frankly, I don't know. But I know many people, even many people in the National Assembly, they're Nigerians like us. Many of them have made their views very well known. Many of them will confirm to you in the House of Rep. There was no quorum. So let's be careful, because we're in a country now where we want to forge everything. And it's like we are also ignorant that we cannot see. There was no 2/3 majority in the House of Rep, definitely. I choose House of Rep in particular because a key portion of it was televised. Senate had a closed session, and I was not there. But if there was 2/3 majority, let them list the senators who voted in favor. Let us see that in total, they add up to more than 2/3. But even then, beyond that, I think what I'm saying is that the politicians are in charge of, as a group, are in charge of their own destiny. They can send the signal that they cannot manage the situation and they need military help. Let them send that signal. Sometimes in life, the signals you send are important. I would have thought that the last message that elected politicians would want to send was that they're incapable of managing situations, relying on democratic and civilian solutions. Meanwhile, where there's a military emergency, I've given you Benue, I've given you Plateau. I've not even seen the president visit those places. I don't think those places are even getting enough attention. So what is the difference about River State? Is it the revenue? Because River State, I know, is the second highest in terms of the revenue which a state generates. Is it that the attraction is the revenue? That's why I said a state captured the issue. So which means that a state that has no revenue, even if they kill themselves, is okay.
Well, I mean, we don't know, but I mean, the facts are that River State is a key swing state in terms of the size of its voting power, and elections are approaching. We don't know if there's any connection, but there are reports, and I wonder if you can react to this before we come to the end of this chat. There are reports that Governor Fubara is poised to cross over to the APC, with many saying that he now has to go to the altar of the president and the APC if he wants to survive politically in Nigeria.
Charles, I don't comment about things that
What's your reaction to that?
It could be complete conjecture. People float all kinds of stories. There has to be. It's like asking me if there will be an earthquake tomorrow. I won't comment on that unless you show me that.
Well, there could be data that suggests that there will be an earthquake
exactly. Then we can have a discussion. But I don't want to just go into this affair to leave serious things and be going into conjecture what may happen, what may not happen tomorrow. I think the most important thing that we need to emphasize is that we are slowly destroying democracy in Nigeria.
Well, let me ask you this before we have to go, since you mentioned that. What do you make of all these defections from the PDP to the APC? Because that's now a factual thing. How much does that systematic whittling down of the strength of the opposition weaken democracy in Nigeria?
So let's be very careful who is joining. There was a time when a former APC chairman, I think you might have heard him saying that if you have a problem with the EFCC, come and join us and your problems will go. Please, if all those who have problems with the EFCC, anybody that knows he has stolen huge sums of money, it's good if they all go and congregate in the same place, so we know where they all are. So I would invite, if indeed that's what's happening, then let all of them identify themselves and run to one place. And then for as long as we know that they're all in one place, we can keep our eyes on them properly, as opposed to if they're hiding in different places. So if what is happening is that those who have lots of baggage, people who have stolen money, EFCC has their files, are gathering in the same place, then perhaps those in that place who don't belong to that group should think about exiting, so that the group is very well defined. But I'm not going to worry myself about these politicians running from pillar to post.
On that note, I want to thank you very much.
Your submission there, Mr. Atedo. I like your submission there. Interesting. Let them go and meet themselves in one place, gather in one place, so that whenever another person comes into power, another party produce president, they will know where they are. That these people in APC, they are a group of criminals. So you don't need to start looking for them. You know they are all there. Even at that time, if they want to switch, come to the party, we'll say no to them. Stay where you are. EFCC will come and pick you up there. If at all we have a president who is truly ready to fight the corruptions, because as it is now, they are not ready. That's why they are there. But those ones that have been defecting, you see all of them, they have one problem or the other of money laundering, blah blah blah. That's why they are decamping. And the showman said it already, that once you join the party, you join APC, your sins are forgiven. What is that sin? It's not the sin you commit against God. It's not the sin of adultery. It's not the sins of womanizing, all manner of things. No, it's a sin of fraudulent, stolen public funds. That is a sin. So instead of EFCC to come after you, you join the APC. They've forgotten your case. So now let them join one place. They know where they are. That all these people in APC, they are a group of criminals. You don't need to start looking for their files from here to another. You know the files are in one place. That's the only again. Secondly, you say Ibas, the sole administrator, if he misread his duties, responsibility. No, it's not as if it's misread. Number one, Tinubu go against constitutions to declare a state of emergency by suspending the democratically elected governor to impose the sole administration as an administrator there. So it goes against constitution. So the Ibas himself, sole administrator, is going against the constitution. It's going against the constitution by imposing that too. Do you understand? So that is the problem. So it's not as if he's misread or something, and he's playing all the script. This is written script given to him. He's playing them out one after the other. It's not as if truly misread or he doesn't know what they're doing. Tinubu only said that make that declaration. They already concluded. They know what he's going to do now. And the money allocation they suspended, immediately he was released to him. And they allow, if at all, if this was not a script written for him, and he's just taking in one after the other to upplate, because that's been written already. He's just upplating based on the script. If not, Tinubu also have right to caution him, to say, no, your boundary, you are going against what they ask you to do. So you are going against your power. So they did do nothing. They didn't do nothing. Tinubu wickedly do nothing, because these are all manipulated. These scripts written for him. Go there and do this and do that. So whenever a sinful matter comes into power, if at all they allow him to come back, it's going to take another time to start building his cabinet. Definitely, all these people he appointed, sinful matter is not going to work with them, because we don't even know if they are competent enough to hold public office. So they are not elected, it's just been appointed. So he can't work. They can't work with Sin Fumbada. Sin Fumbada will come and start building again, bringing his people. And those people that were there before he was being suspended, they might not come back. You see? So now for these 2 years, it's going to be a problem. Just like now, basically the 2 years of government gone. Anyways, please share this video. Please subscribe to this YouTube channel, hit the notification button so that when the video like this is being posted next time, you'll be the first person to see. Please.